In Mark chapter 9, we're told the story often referred to as the Transfiguration. Therein, Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up to the top of a mountain where he's transfigured. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. And there appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Mark doesn't tell us why Elijah and Moses showed up or what they said, just that they appeared and had a chat. Now, the appearance of these two together has led some to suggest they are the witnesses in Revelation 11. Picking up in 11 verse 3, we're told, "And I will appoint my two witnesses. They will prophesy for 1260 days clothed in sackcloth. They are the two olive trees and the two lampstands, and they stand before the Lord of the earth. If anyone tries to harm them, fire comes from their mouths and devours their enemies. This is how anyone who wants to harm them must die. They have the power to shut up the heavens so that it will not rain during the time they are prophesying. They have the power to turn the waters into blood and strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they want." The power to shut up the heavens so that it doesn't rain, that's straight out of 1 Kings 17. Elijah prays and there was no rain. The water turning to blood and the plagues, well, that sure sounds like Moses, doesn't it? But what about the devouring fire? In 1 Kings 18, Elijah calls down fire from heaven to consume the sacrifice. And in 2 Kings 1 does something similar, though this time the fire consumes King Ahaziah's men. Now, if we're being picky, however, the fire never comes from his mouth. The closest you get to this with Moses is the burning bush, or depending on the translation you read, the seventh plague includes hail, thunder, and fire. Case closed? Not so sure. Some suggest Enoch as a witness in place of Moses, because Enoch, like Elijah, never died. Or Peter or Paul or James and John, which, let's be honest, would have been kind of weird for John to see John. Regardless, these latter connectors seem pretty baseless. There are a few details worth attending to, like the two witnesses. 2 is the requisite number in Torah to validate a truth claim. Deuteronomy 19:15 states 1 witness is not enough to convict anyone accused of any crime or offense that they may have committed. A matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. This is a tangent, but it's likely this requirement standing behind Jesus' practice of sending the disciples out 2 by 2 in order to serve as witnesses and validate their claim. It's also worth knowing that the 1260 days that the witnesses prophesy is another piece that connects up with Elijah. In Luke 4:25, Jesus states, "I assure you that there were many widows in Israel in Elijah's time when the sky was shut for 3.5 years. And there was a severe famine in the land, severe famine throughout the land." I know that a year is 365 days. So 3.5 years would be something more like 1,277.5 days. But in prophetic writings that stress symbolism, a year is often treated as 360 days. So the 1,260 days, or 3.5 years, matches up with the previous mention of the holy city being trampled for 42 months. In Revelation 12, we'll see these numbers stated in these various ways in addition to one more. The woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she would be taken care of for a time, times, and half a time out of the serpent's reach. Now, this goes back to Daniel 7, but for now, we're just talking math. Time, times, and half a time is 3.5 years. Time is 1 year. Times plural is 2 years, and a half a time is half a year, or 1,260 days. This may be more math than you were planning on doing today, but this is where we come to the point. 1 Kings 17, Elijah prays and God stops it from raining. And after 3.5 years, Elijah prays, God sends a storm. Now, there's a lot more to unpack here, but we shouldn't miss that these numbers convey the simple fact that God is in control. He sets the limits, he accomplishes his purpose, and he always remains faithful to those he calls his own. Have a blessed week.